So welcome. Today this is Debbie Crane and Joy Paradisus Plater. We are the
Yes.
president and vice president of Savoyard Light Opera Company, interviewing some of our directorial team. And today we have with us Barry Singer, who has been one of our music directors in recent years. And we're just going to ask some questions about things you might want to know from a music director. So Barry, you want to just do a little quick introduction of yourself, like how long you've been directing, how you got into musical theater directing and things like that?
Sure. Well, I got into musical theater at a very, very early age. My parents were community theater people. They actually founded a theater in Westport, Connecticut, which is still doing extremely well. My dad was directed dozens of shows. He was a stage director, not a music director. But so I've always been kind of around theater, and I did a lot of it as a younger person. And my first show I directed actually was at age 19. It was Bye Bye Birdie for a student summer theater production one summer, and it was a great experience, but I was not really ready for it yet. But neither was anybody else in that crew, so it was a good learning experience. And then I really didn't do much directing until maybe several years later. I started as an assistant director for a local theater company for up here in the Boston area. And that's how I kind of got in the door of actual directing. I had been in the cast of a show. It was with the Sudbury Savoyards. I had been a fill-in member of the cast for production. And I happened to know the music director, David Larrick, and the following year, he asked if I would be his assistant conductor, which I was for a couple of years. And it's a great way of getting your feet wet. And then I was able to be their music director for a number of years after that. And that's sort of how it's gone with me. I've been able to work in this particular area, in the Boston area, I should say, for a while. And not that I've been doing as much theater as many other directors do, because I have this other career as a concert music conductor. I conduct choruses and orchestras, but I can't stay away from theater. And lately I've been trying to get much more full-time involved in it. So that's the long answer. So.
That's cool. So I have a quick question, and then I'm going to pass it over to Joy. What did you learn? What was the most valuable thing that you learned from that early on experience, about yourself or about the process? Is there anything that you just remember from that early on Bye Bye Birdie experience that made you think, oh, I really want to do this, or, oh, I would do it differently, or any little nugget?
The experience of that very early experience was mostly just, let's see if we can get the show going and get it up on time.
Yeah.
Some of the other early experiences I had, I learned an awful lot about how to organize a rehearsal schedule and how to organize rehearsal time.
Nice.
Because that is not an area where I have a natural set of talents, but I realized very quickly that you have to really build a schedule and stick to a schedule. And if you do that, it solves a lot of problems for both the directors and the cast. So,
absolutely. I 100% agree.
Yep. The experience of actually leading a show or directing a show is just, it gets better with each time you do it, because every show there's some new learning that goes on. And so you can just keep accumulating things. And it's an experience that adds on to itself each time.
Awesome.
So Barry, I want to ask you about the big one, which is choosing your audition song. As you know, there's a lot of stress. Do you show off your vocal range? Do you try to stretch a little bit? Do you stay in your comfort zone? Do you do a song you've maybe sang before in a musical? Do you try to match the song match the flavor of the musical people are doing? Do you pick a song from the musical that's going to be performed? What are your thoughts?
You do all those things. Really.
I answered it and asked it.
All the things you mentioned can come into play. You can't really do all of those things in a single audition. Choose a song if you say stretches your range, I would advise against that.
Mm.
Know your range well enough and choose something that may highlight the best parts of it, and show me maybe something that goes up a little high and goes a little low, or a little low. But if I, as a director, feel that I'm not hearing enough of that, I might just ask you after the song, let's sing a little bit and see
Mm.
how high you're comfortable
Mhm.
going.
I
So
got
I would say what's comfortable is a better way of going with that. Something from the show that you're auditioning for, I don't have a particular problem with that. If there's a specific part you're going for, show me a song that role sings. I'm fine with that. Um, what I would warn against is bringing the same song year after year to the audition,
Mm.
um, especially if you've been cast in previous shows, and that song is from one of those shows. I know you can sing that. And I know even if you didn't get cast in the show, I know you can sing that song because we heard it before. Always come in with something fresh, something new that shows me that you are interested in expanding your capabilities and your repertoire. So,
Okay.
um, and you asked a whole bunch of questions in there.
I just,
Well, yeah,
sorry.
so
Go ahead, Debbie.
I
um,
would, I would say something that shows you to your best advantage, both as a singer and as a performer.
Oh, can I follow up then? Should
Yes.
you move when you're dancing? I mean, when you're singing, like I did turn back, oh man, and I did just a little bit of movement, and then I got worried I was just overselling it, and I don't know whether you should just stand there and sing
No,
or
you should not just stand there, but neither should you
okay.
go into a whole choreo routine either. Um,
right,
you should really
a blend.
show that you're comfortable and use your body and your hands and your head and so forth to show that you can inhabit the song and the character. I as a director, as a music director, am not just looking for a beautiful voice, or I'm also looking for someone who shows that they understand the song and
Mhm.
understands that character. So your body movements can certainly help with that, but don't go overboard. You should be
Okay.
relaxed and free, but not chewing up the entire platform. So
That's great. Yeah, because that's something that I always personally, when I'm auditioning, I'm like, I know I shouldn't just park and bark,
right,
but it's like, how much movement do I do, and how come,
right.
and I
You,
did I, so
you
yeah, that's
can you can
great.
be very expressive with minimal movements. I think
Hmm.
um, pacing around, even taking a few steps might work, or standing there is fine. But show me involvement. Show me,
Mm-hmm.
and that usually doesn't work with just standing there and looking kind of stiff.
Right,
It's not a. This is not a chorus. Even if
right.
you are going to be part of an ensemble, you're going to need to express yourself. So.
Hmm. So on a follow-up of like choosing a song, like I know sometimes people come in thinking, oh, I'm going to choose this really unique song, but no one's ever heard it before and they don't like the song, but maybe this person is a fabulous performer and they think they're doing the right thing of like choosing this really unique, interesting song, and you don't like the song, but you like this, you like the person, you've seen them perform before.
Yes.
How does that play into casting in terms of like, you know what I'm asking here? Like,
Right. No, I see. In other words, if the person comes to me with a song that shows off something about what they can do, but it's not particularly what I'm looking for,
right.
I personally might ask if they have that. I would thank them for that and take from it what I can. I'd ask them if they had another song. Some people who
Mm.
travel with a binder of audition tunes generally can pull up something else. Now, I hope, I usually expect that an auditioner has their bit memorized, especially if it's just a 32 bar cut.
Hmm.
But if they don't, that's okay, especially if I were to ask for a second song. If they don't have that inside their head, I'm not going to take points away for that. But a song should show me something that says I can do the role or something in the show. If it is a show that has a lot of Gershwin tunes in it, if it's Crazy for You or something like that, don't sing me a Britney Spears tune. That's just, you might nail the heck out of that song, but it's not anything I can use for the type of show that you're auditioning.
So you're saying you want the song to relate to the type of show that is going to be that people are auditioning for, and sing something that can be relatable to that type of music, that type of show, that type of character, and
anything from the period. It really doesn't have to actually, you don't have to go and analyze the plot of the show that your song is from versus the one you're auditioning for and say, does, but if the music in the show is all from the 1930s, or if it's Rodgers and Hammerstein, then go with something along those lines.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Classic Broadway or 30s, or if it's a more modern show, show me that you can do that. I would, a piece of advice is that very difficult Stephen Sondheim songs or Jason Robert Brown songs sometimes tax the accompanist, and I have more to say on that subject as well. So,
well, go ahead. Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
That's something that people like to know. Like, what are because some people don't think about the accompanist. Like, they might know a song really well, and they're like, "Oh, I can do this song really well," but then they may not read music well enough to know what this accompaniment is like for the accompanist. So definitely touch on that in our next.
Yes, this is probably the thing. If I had to answer one question about auditions, it would be something to do with this, and it's just that coming into an audition, the one most important thing is preparation. There can be two people auditioning. One has a terrific voice and acts really well and moves really well. That is a talented person. And the second person who sings quite well and acts quite well and dances quite well, maybe a notch below the first person. But if that first person comes in and sets their cell phone down in front of the accompanist and said, "Here are the words, and the chords are in there, but I do this lower. I'm not sure how much lower, but I do it lower so if you can make the chords lower." Well, that's not preparation. That's something that I, as a director, will notice, and I would be very reluctant to cast that person. Whereas the person who comes in and they have their music on Xerox pages or in a binder that stays open.
Binder.
I'm talking about this as not just as a director, but as somebody who has accompanied a lot of auditions too. And as somebody who has been an auditioner as well. It was learning for me as when I was auditioning for shows. If you bring that into your audition, that well-marked paper, and it should be paper still. Don't assume that every accompanist has their iPad Pro and you can download your PDF. So paper and the binder that stays open or the pages that can be arranged are all good. Marking where you want to start and where you want to finish is really good. And standing next to the accompanist for a minute and saying, "This is how fast I do this song," and sing a little bit for them. All of that gets you the part. If along with those good skills that I talked about, but really the less brilliant performer that is more prepared is showing me that they care enough to really do the job. So
that's great. Yeah, that's great information.
That's great information. That's something I wouldn't have thought of.
I have a recommendation for what it's worth. I don't know if I can show a product.
Yes, please.
My own book. This is a book that I came across a few years ago that is absolutely brilliant. And it is called The Enraged Accompanist's Guide to a Successful Audition. And
I love it.
Despite the title, it's not written in this, wild-haired passion of anger. It's actually loaded with all sorts of really great information about auditioning for a musical production. It's by a music director and accompanist named Andrew Gerle, Gerle, who is very big in New York City. And so he wrote this book, and I recommend that to anybody who plans to do any sort of auditioning.
Sounds great.
That's excellent.
Yep. So
Barry, I don't know how we doing on time.
We have a
Deb?
couple minutes.
Okay, so suppose you cast someone and he or she doesn't quite have the chops you thought they had. I'm sure it's happened to you.
Mhm.
Are you able to change the key of some of the music, or how do you work with that person? Maybe talk through some lines, or, I'm assuming.
There's no one right answer to that. Sometimes we
Yeah.
can change the key of the music. Sometimes that's very inconvenient or difficult. So instead, I'm not adverse to working with whoever, with the actor, and rescoring. That's not the right word. Just
Rearrange.
giving them notes or things to do that will work better for them.
Yeah, okay.
In in a duet setting, for example, that's a little harder to do.
Yeah.
This really applies more to solos. We generally hope to avoid that in the audition process simply by knowing that person's range. But
Range, yeah.
as you say, things can absolutely happen.
Yeah.
And
Just curious.
brings up an interesting point about what your expectations are as an auditioner, and what our expectations are. And that if you decide you're going to audition for a particular part and you really only want that part, please let us know that. That gives the directors a lot of good information. If you say, well, I would take ensemble without actually having any intention of taking ensemble, that's not fair. And of course, I understand that people who are talented and busy might be auditioning for a few different shows and so forth. So they might say, I take ensemble, but somebody else casts them. These things always happen, especially in amateur theater where we're not putting people under contract.
Right.
So,
Right.
But yeah,
but
honesty is the best policy in those cases. And
absolutely. And don't discount ensemble or an alternate role, because chances are, if the directors see you in that other role or in the ensemble, you're going to shine in one of those things. And so if you really want to be in the show, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, terrific.
So one other little question that always comes up for me and some of my friends when we're getting ready for an audition, and this might seem sort of fluff, first world problems, but like, what do you wear? Like what?
Yeah.
Some people, I've seen people show up in jeans and then we're told to dress comfortably because there's going to be a movement piece, but like we want to make a good impression, right? But so like,
do you care?
Do you care? Like, do the directorial teams really care about how much what we're wearing and making an impression? Some people say wear a bright color, or
I would say, I mean, for my own personal extremely cultivated sense of fashion, which is none. I want to see that the person is comfortable. I can't speak for what a stage director or a choreographer is looking for. I personally like, this is a fashion thing, I guess, some detail, which is like a splash of color, a scarf or something. And that's only because it helps me remember you a little better.
Oh, that's good.
It's something that stands out, but literally, I wouldn't take that to extremes, like, dressing in a formal gown or ultra provocatively is not going to work necessarily in your favor, at least not with me. Look comfortable. Don't be a slob, I guess, but I don't actually have a lot of problem as long as the their performance goes well. They'll be costumed for the show,
right?
But a stage director might have a different answer, and a choreographer certainly.
Yeah. Well, how, as an ending? Oh, sorry, Debbie.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I just thought maybe, is there any other thing we didn't ask you that you would like auditioners to know that would make your job easier, make us more successful?
Nothing really. That one thing about preparation, memorization is always effective. The people who come in not memorized might do a good job and very well might be cast, but we don't have that piece of information about how well you've learned something.
Yeah.
And so the one word preparation is key.
Awesome. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much, Barry. This was really great.
Really
And
fun. Thanks.
yeah, we
you.
are so thankful for you for joining us this evening, and watch for the video coming out on YouTube on Slock Producers.
I will.